All right, we are officially into chapter 5 of Lady Lollipop. I believe we're either halfway or almost halfway through this book. We've been introduced to so many characters so far. I want you to remember, after each chapter, do a little character check-in with yourself. Do you remember who is considered a main character? So who has popped up a few times and you think they're pretty important? Has any problems arise? Have any characters changed their personality or any important traits about them? Okay, let's keep that in mind as we read. So chapter 5 is titled, I'll jolly well make you a duke. Poor King Theophilus! He found himself between a rock and a hard place. On one side was his daughter, quite determined that her new pet should be a palace pig. On the other his wife, who after her bout of hysterics upon learning of this, had served upon him the following ultimatum. So an ultimatum is when you give someone two choices and they have to make a decision. So for example, I could say, you can either choose to sit at your desk for an hour, or you can choose to do 20 laps around the outside field. So that's like an ultimatum. It's kind of, you're choosing between two really difficult choices because either they're both undesirable or it's just a very hard decision. If that ugly, dirty, stupid animal sets Trotter inside these walls, Theo, the queen had said, then out I go. There isn't room for both of us. But my dear Eth, said the king, we have 240 rooms in this palace. Which, replied the queen, is not going to be turned into a pigsty. Next morning, meeting his daughter as she returned from the royal mews, the king said to her, you were joking, weren't you, Penelope, about your new pet? I forgot its name. Lollipop. About Lollipop becoming a palace pig? It was just a joke, wasn't it? No, said the princess. But, said the king, your mother doesn't wish for it. Well, I do, Daddy. But, said the king, it'll make messes everywhere. No, it won't, said the princess. I'm having it palace trained. By that boy, do you mean? I forget his name. Johnny Skinner. I've just given him orders about it. Lollipop should soon be able to leave the stall and live with us. But Penelope, said the king, if she does, your mother has said that she will leave us. So that's the ultimatum. So either the pig can become palace trained and she will leave, or the pig does not become palace trained and she will stay. That's the ultimatum. So he's choosing between what the queen wants and what Penelope, the stubborn child, wants. So they're both pretty stubborn right now. The king is being pushed around. You must tell her not to, then, said the Princess Penelope. After all, Daddy, your word is law. She smiled sweetly. I always do everything you tell me, don't I? She said. King Theophilus took a deep breath. Well, darling, he said, I'm telling you now, you cannot bring that pig into the palace. He waited nervously for the outburst that might surely follow. Would she go into a terrible sulk? Would she shout and yell at him? Would she throw things? Once, in a fury, she had kicked his shins. He drew back a pace or two, but to his surprise, the princess only gave him another sweet smile. Didn't you hear what I said? Asked the king. Yes, said the princess, but I'm not going to take a blind bit of notice to it, and off she went. The king shut himself into his study. What am I to do? He said out loud. Why must the child be so unreasonable? Who is there who might make her see sense? Wait, though, what about that boy? Suppose I told him I don't want the pig to be palace trained. He'd be bound to do what I told him, wouldn't he? So he sent for Johnny Skinner. Johnny, of course, had never been inside the palace before, and now as he followed the footman who had brought the message to the mews, he looked around him in wonder of all the rich furnishings, at the ornaments of gold and silver, at the portraits of the king's ancestors looking down at him from the tapestried walls, and felt beneath his feet the thick softness of the priceless carpet upon which, if all went well, Lollipop would before long be walking. Come in, cried the king in a hearty voice, when the footman opened the door. Sit down, Johnny, my boy. Make yourself comfortable. How are you? Well, I hope. Yes, sir, said Johnny. And your pig? She's well, sir, said Johnny, but she's not my pig any more. No, of course not. Quite so, said the king. But though you're not But though you're no longer her owner, you are nevertheless her trainer, are you not? Yes. You teach her things, don't you? Yes, sir, replied Johnny. I'm teaching her something now. What? I'm house training her, sir. Palace training, you mean, said the king. Yes. Are you telling me that you'll be able to teach her never to do anything indoors? Yes, sir. Like a well-trained dog, you mean? Johnny nodded. If he really can do that, thought the king, then Eth won't have anything to complain about. Maybe Penelope will get away on her own, after that, like she always does. Johnny, said the king, tell me honestly, did you say that my daughter is a bit spoiled? No. Oh, why would you say that? That she is very spoiled indeed. She needs to be taught to think more about other people and less about herself. Dead right, thought the king. Could you teach her, do you think? He said. I might be able to. If you can, Johnny, said King Theophilus, I'll jolly well make you a duke.